Um, I don't care what happened in the past. What happened in the Ares, I mean, or in Underhill, or any of it. His heart beat inside him like a child trying to escape. His lungs were cold. She was still talking, but he hadn't caught it. Did she know? Did she know what he had done in Nicosia? It was impossible, or she would not have been here, would she? But she ought to have known. Do you understand? She asked. He hadn't heard what she was referring to. He continued to stare at his coffee cup. And suddenly she slapped it away with the back of her hand. It clattered under a nearby table and broke. The white ceramic semicircle of the handle spun on the ground. The white ceramic semicircle of the handle spun on the ground. I said, do you understand? Paralyzed, he continued to stare at the empty tabletop. Overlapping rings of brown coffee stains. Maya leaned forward and put her face in her hands. She was hunched tight over her stomach, not breathing. Finally, she breathed, pulled her head up. No, she said. So quietly that at first he assumed she was addressing herself. Don't speak of it. You think I care, and so you do all this? As if I would care more about then than now. She looked up at him and caught his gaze. It was 30 years ago, she said. 35 since we met. And 30 since all that happened. I am not that Maya Katerina Twatanova. I don't know her. I don't know what she thought or felt or why. That was a different world, a different life. It doesn't matter to me now. I have no feeling for it. Now I am here. And this is me. She poked herself between the breasts with a thumb. And look, I love you. Yeah, it's Toyotavna, but we call her Twatnova. And look, I love you. She let the silence stretch. Her last words drifting out like ripples on a pond. He couldn't stop looking at her. Then he pulled his gaze away. He glared up at the faint twilight stars overhead. Let their position seep into his memory. When she said, I love you, Orion stood tall in the southern sky. The metal chair under you was hard. Your feet were cold. I don't want to think about anything but that, she said. She didn't know. And he did. But everyone has to assume their past somehow. They were 80-odd years old and healthy. There were people who were now 100, and there were people who were now 110 years old, healthy, vigorous, strong, Who knew how long it would last? They were going to have a lot of past to assume. And as it went on, and those years of their youth receded into the distant past, all those searing passions that had cut so deep, could they really be only scars? Weren't they crippling wounds? 1,000 amputations? But it wasn't a physical thing. Amputations, castrations, hollowing out, they were all in the imagination. An imaginary relationship to a real situation. The brain is a funny animal, he muttered. She cocked her head and looked curiously at him. Suddenly he was afraid. They were their pasts. They had to be, or they were nothing at all. And whatever they felt or thought or said in the present was nothing more than an echo of the past. So when they said what they said, how could they know what their deeper minds were really feeling, thinking, saying? They didn't know, really. Relationships were, for that reason, utterly mysterious. They took place between two subconscious minds. And whatever the surface trickle thought was going on could not be trusted to be right. Did that Maya know at the deepest level or not know? Remember or forget? Swear vengeance or forgive? There was no way of telling. He could never be sure. It was impossible. And yet there she was, sitting there miserably, looking as if he could shatter her like a coffee cup. Shatter her with a single flick of his finger. If he didn't at least pretend to believe her, what then? What then? How could he shatter her like that? She would hate him for it. For forcing her to remember the past, to care about it. And so, one had to go on, to act. He lifted his hand, so frightened that the movement felt like teleoperation. He was a dwarf in a Waldo that was stiff, touchy, unfamiliar. Lift, quick, modulate. To the left, hold, return, hold, steady. Down, gently. Gently, gently, onto the back of her hand. Clasp, very gently. There. Her hand was really very cold. And so was his. She looked wanly at him. Let's... He had to clear his throat. Let's go back to our rooms. Oh my God. Okay, that was literally like 1 page. There's still 5 pages left. I don't know if we're gonna finish part 6 tonight. That felt like a lifetime.